Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Harry from Hasper TV. How are you guys all doing after yesterday? Yeah, it seems like the season's over, at least in my opinion, and for me. Crashing out the Champions League again in the last 16 after we spent all that trouble getting into it in the first place. So, yeah, what was the point? Where should we start? Let's start with the performance. The first half, as per usual, was poor. We were kind of holding on to the 1-0 defeat, which is kind of joke that's on running right now in the Spurs community that we were defending a 1-0 defeat. um, but yeah, there was no urgency in the first half. I found myself losing my voice, screaming at the players to actually do something. Um, Again, Son, have to be said again, another poor game. What I've noticed, I think Son kind of emphasizes what the issue is at the club in a small nutshell. Last season, Son was obviously the Golden Boot winner, and some may argue he overperformed last season, being getting the Golden Boot. But I would argue that he was kind of building up to that, especially with his relationship with Kane. And this season, Son, relative to the fact he got the Golden Boot in the first place, and he started doing NFTs and all that sort of thing. I don't want to make it like a Son video or a Son stream, but it's just the fact that in a sense, there was so much promise with the club, and obviously with Son, there was so much promise that after his Golden Boot, he would kick on. But we've kind of just fell back to apart, and Son to me kind of epitomizes what's kind of happened. He's lost confidence. You can tell he's taking extra touches when he shouldn't be. He's losing possession. What noticeable to me with Son was that he's just not making the same runs he was last season, and it's all well and good Kane dropping off because he kind of has to because he lacked creativity in the side. And Kulusevski, who to me has been rushed back from injury, is not providing the creativity that he normally would off the right hand side. And a combination, like I said, Son being really poor, Kane's dropped off, and then Son, I'm seeing going to the right, I'm seeing going in the middle, which is understandable him going to the middle because he's kind of taking over Kane's space when Kane drops off, which is kind of what used to happen under Mourinho as well. But he's not making those runs. If you watch Son, the ball goes to him and he just drops off, collects it, drops it off, tries a little flick, and then goes off. Before he was making those runs forward and Kane could actually play those balls. But now it's just not happening. I mean, Kane can only do so much. He's got 18 Premier League goals this season. He can only do so much. And it's a massive issue because obviously Kane and Son are our most important players, are players that when they don't perform, we don't perform. And last night kind of exemplified that. But in Son's case, he's been given so many chances. We're 12, 13 games left of the season now, and there's still people hanging on to him having a good season. Oh, forget it, mate. Like, give Richarlison minutes. But again, Richarlison came out to the press yesterday and said that he was actually training to play in the side. And then he, as in preparing to play against Milan as a starter, and then he finds out in the morning yesterday that he wasn't going to play, which is quite baffling. So I don't know, maybe there's even rumours that Son's going to get a new contract. To me, it screams the fact that he's getting a new contract because, let's be honest, Son is a marketing asset as well. He gets loads of fans in the stadium. It makes the clubs tons of money. Whether he performs on the pitch or not, Daniel Levy probably doesn't care. But for Son himself, if we're talking as a player, he should have been dropped before the World Cup. Richarlison, in my opinion, has every right to be aggrieved because he's only had 12 starts, and in 8 of those 12 starts, we've actually won the game. And there was some statistic because some defenders seem to love to point statistics to me. There was a statistic I read this morning that, like overall, statistically or something, Richarlison has actually performed better than the Kulusevski and Son. In like, we're not talking just about like goals and assists, but we're talking about everything. So that's something to think about. But I feel like Richarlison, like, he hasn't given him a proper chance. But when you look at and deep it, if you look at some of the signings, Basuma, Richarlison, and Spence, those three in particular, haven't been given any minutes unless there's been injuries in the front line. In Spence's case, and like completely not, because they must have really pissed off Conte. They brought in a young right wing back instead of one they actually wanted. And then again, Emerson played last night. He was alright. I mean, Skip and Højbjerg, Skip probably our best player, which kind of epitomises how the game went. I never felt like Spurs were going to score. If anything, Milan missed more chances than Tottenham. And the second half, it was a bit better. we had that very big chance at the end with Kane header. He had one header earlier in the game, but considering the area where he got the header when it was very low, it was very hard to put in the net. The last minute one, it was down to him. But when you're a striker and you're so starved of supply, kind of like Richarlison was very starved of supply the other night, I don't know how you expect him to score. Kane can't do everything. And hand on heart, if Kane wants to go, I would have let him go in my blessing 2 years ago. But right at this point, if he wants to go, go and win trophies, mate. Like, I do want you to stay for the footballing standpoint, like, because I love Spurs, I want him to stay. But for a personal standpoint, like, if Kane goes, I have nothing against him. Even if he went to like Chelsea or Arsenal, I won't go to Arsenal, but Chelsea or United, like, I don't know. He's given enough to Tottenham. He's not getting anything back. He always said that if long as Spurs match his ambition, he would stay. The only scenario I see Kane staying is if Man United and Chelsea, I mean, I don't know if Liverpool are in the running, but if they don't go in for him, he's gonna have no choice but to stay because, I mean, where's he gonna go? I can't see him going abroad. I can't see him going Bayern Munich, and he'll probably want to break Shearer's record, so you can't blame him. He'll probably would stay. But the team has so many issues. The back three, Romero, it's obviously needs someone experienced alongside him to calm him down. Longley played in the middle last night. He wasn't the best. He's like a bang average player, really. I mean, it's the fact that he's just slightly better than Dyer gave me a little bit more confidence. I mean, Davies was horrific in that left centre half position yesterday. I thought he had two major instances in the first half where he just completely read it wrong, and he was just poor. And then you look at Perisic and Emerson. Emerson, yes, he has improved. Yes, the last few games he's probably been our best player. In fact, in the first half, I think he had two shots. I think one actually hit the target, and he was our most creative and dangerous player in that first half, Emerson, and that kind of sums it all up. I think with Perisic, a lot of people are arguing the whole Perisic Son thing, and I'm going to bring up again because I kind of want to get this out of the way. I was sitting in the west, so I could actually see it right below me, the Perisic Son thing, and for what I witnessed, like I said earlier in the video, Son was kind of moving more towards the right. But Perisic, out of all the wing backs we have, plays further on the touchline than anyone else for the majority of the game. I'd argue he spent 30 to 35 minutes on the touchline in the first half on the left. Like I said, right in front of me. And then you had Son playing slightly in field, which is kind of understandable, is the formation. But there were instances when Perisic came inside. So you telling me Son can't go on the outside? It's just, the whole point is, from what I gathered, they were switching. When Emerson in the second half played alongside Son on that left-hand side, Emerson was coming in more. But I mean, Emerson's not really like a wing-back by trade anyway. But again, we have major problems. These hack isn't firing. Obviously, the midfield is doing all right, I guess. The defense is a mess. Obviously, Forster's in goal. I'd argue Forster hasn't done much wrong because he's gone to the side. And some people tell me, Lloris has more authority, but I feel more confident with Forster in goal than I do Lloris for the rest of the season. But if we look at the season as a whole, to me, it's just done because even if we make top four, I guess people point to last season. We had that promise with Conte making the top four to push on. Obviously, we haven't. I mean, you can look at past managers. Harry Redknapp making the top four the first time, didn't push on. Pochettino, we went top four like 4 out of 5 seasons, or was it 3 out of 4 seasons, something like that. Again, we didn't push on. We had so many chances, especially in 2017. That was, to me, that window where we signed Sissoko was a window that, if I was on this platform, I would have been raging at on that deadline day. That window was horrific. But yeah, so what's the purpose of the club? We're just going to go around on a hamster wheel. That's what it feels like to me. Until Levy goes, because it's clear that Levy gave Conte, again, players he didn't want. Especially with some, like, it's kind of obvious with Richarlison, but obviously Bissouma, to a lesser extent, to me, stinks of a deal that, like Aurier back in the past under Pochettino, that Levy went and bought him because of good value for money. As in the sense that Bissouma was valued at 50 million, but we could get him for 25. So he thought, we can get him in, get a few years out of him, maybe sell him on and make some money. But that's the only thing I can think of. And it's true, like Conte, like Pochettino in his latter stages, like, I mean, even Redknapp to lesser extent, because he kind of kept the same 11 for the most part. Only trusted a small group of players, I'd say like 13 to 14 players. And Pochettino was like that. Apparently he liked a small squad, that's what we kept hearing anyway. And to win titles, to win trophies, to to go forward as a club, you can't rely on like 13, 14 players. I'd argue you need 18 to 20 who are like quality, and then you could probably get away with like 4 to ish players who are sort of in the average sort of level. Like you can get away with say like a one Ben Davies in the back line, one player like Davies in the back line, maybe one in midfield as like a fourth, fifth choice midfielder, and one of the forward line to plug in some gaps. And then obviously a goalkeeper you can get away with an average goal. That's four players. But Spurs, unfortunately, we have two very good like quality players. I say 2 to 3 quality players, and I'd argue Kane is the only world class player at the club at the moment. And then the rest are just average, or some are good. Some are say 7 out of 10 players consistently. A lot of them are like 3s and 4s out of 10s every week, and you just can't move forward as a club. If Spurs under Levy were showing progression when we made the Champions League, as in buying Champions League caliber players that the manager actually wanted, then maybe I'd be more encouraged to finish in the top 4 this season. But right now, to me, we're just going to go on the hamster wheel again. We'll qualify for the top 4 through some miracle if we do it. And then in 12 months' time, whether it's under Pochettino or it's under Tuchel or it's under Enrique, who's been linked today, we're just going to repeat the same cycle because Levy has way too much control, and the fact that Levy himself actually wants to be the chairman of the new owners of the club, if we get new ownership, to me screams even more problems to me. That Levy's more of an issue than ENIC, and I've always said this. Levy is more of an issue than ENIC, and because he just has way too much control on the footballing side. If you watch a documentary, even when he spoke to Ndombele and players like that, when they've been unhappy, that's not his job. If they're unhappy at the club, we go speak to the manager or the head coach, whatever you want to call it nowadays. It's just poor, and unfortunately, there's more pain's going to happen. For me, like obviously, I'm going to support the team. I'll support the club. I said support the club. I'll support the players and the manager, but I refuse to support the owners. And it's just because Groundhog Day. It's basically what it is every season at Tottenham. Groundhog Day. The purpose of this club is to just qualify for the top 4 every season, scrape the top 4 place using young players with potential sell-on value. So then, I guess when those players make the Champions League, like if you look at someone like Bale, who was a young player, they signed with obviously view to getting better. And that window actually, Martin Joel I think wanted a Petrov or something, or like a striker. So he wanted another position. Basically, I'm not saying he didn't want Bale, but he wanted a more senior player instead of like another youngster, right? And obviously Bale succeeded, and partly because he was on the stage of the Champions League. So it's almost like there's a double negative here, because it's a double positive and double negative, because you're getting young players who they're coming of age for Spurs. They play in the Champions League, they get a taste of it, and they see other teams winning the Champions League or winning trophies around them, and they think, oh, I can do better than this. I can do better than Tottenham, because lo and behold, Spurs haven't won a trophy for 15 years, so they kind of have every right to think that way. And I said Bale's a big example of that. Dele, for a few seasons, we could have sold him for 100 million to Real Madrid, and he wasn't there at the time. But Dele's fault is Dele's fault. He's the one who failed in the end at Spurs. And unfortunately, with Son, to me, it's like, I don't bring this up because I'm mentioning Dele. It's like a mirror of the same thing. But the difference with Son is that his drop off is when he's hit 30. So if you're going to get money for Son, you probably have to sell him this summer if he's going to carry on this decline. And obviously, he relies more on his pace. Dele was more of like a positional player. So his drop off was probably even more surprising, especially because of his age. I mean, he's only like 25, 26. But players that's been in this club for 8, 9 years, Davies, Dyer, who just need to go. And do I think Poch come in will make a difference? In the short term, probably if he came in tomorrow, he probably would, because there's lots of fans who are out there who believe that Poch is going to suddenly change Levy's mind, change the way Levy does things. When Poch and Levy fell out over transfers, it wasn't aired in the media as much, in the sense of compared to someone like Jose, who literally said the other day that he wanted Kim and Jai, and Spurs wouldn't pay €5 million more to get him. But in the sense that you knew Pochettino wanted more players. I mean, we didn't sign Grealish, we didn't sign Bruno, we didn't sign Mane, we didn't sign. I remember even in Poch's first season, he wanted Jay Rodriguez and Schneiderlin. That didn't happen. And to me, it's just like I said, we'll get the new manager bounce for maybe 6 to 8 months, but If Poch doesn't get backed, which I fully expect him not to be backed, even if he comes back, unless he just accepts that this is the way it's going to be, you get given players, you deal with whatever players you're given, whether you like it or not, and you have to just deal with them. You may want a certain player with a certain position, we're going to go and buy someone else, and you just have to deal with it. Does that help the manager? No, it doesn't. So as long as Levy's here, just be prepared to go on the hamster wheel again next season, because this is exactly where this club is going. Repeat, 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 repeat the cycle, and unfortunately that's me out of here. And it's just be prepared. It's just been another cycle.